Today, I want to invite you on a journey into my story. It starts with a bike ride. My husband, my sister, and I, we were on our mountain bikes, riding single-track trails in the California mountains. The ocean was to our left, and the sunshine and the beautiful blue sky was above. We were climbing mountains, we were climbing the hills, and we were charging down into the canyons. And we were on our final descent, and we reached a fire road, and we slowed down our pace to prepare for the climb out. When the front of my bike crashed into the rear of my sister's bike, I lost my balance, and I veered off the road into a ravine, tumbling over the front of my handlebars. We just went from playful conversation to me lying in a ditch, crying, scared, and confused. And I wondered, how was I going to make it out with my leg injured? How was I going to be able to climb out of there? This was the day that I found out I was pregnant with Ian. My teacher was waking me up. Come with me now to the next part of the story, 3 years later. I'm in the office of Ian's neurologist. Ian's banging on the windows. He's looking out at the birds flying in patterns outside. Ian's not using verbal language, and I have a lot of questions. The doctor, he carefully weighs how to deliver the blow. And for a moment, I'm back on that bike, about to veer off into the ravine. I believe your son has autism, he finally said. Autism. What does the word mean to you? What images do you see? How do you feel? For me, I bought into the story that it meant that something was wrong with my son, that he was broken and needed to be fixed. I was consumed by this story, and I spent endless hours on the internet researching. My push to fix, it really drove me, and I separated from myself. I lost myself, and I lost connection with my loved ones. And I tried everything I could to not feel the pain. I was stuffing emotions in this imaginary backpack that I carried around with me, weighing me down day after day. And I hung out in that ditch, scared and confused. But the pain always found me. I sought out specialists, I researched cures, and I tried different treatments. And in 2005, I found myself across the country with Ian at an alternative medicine institute. And Ian had been vomiting multiple times a day for 7 months. And it was so severe that they sent us up to the big guns, the energy specialist. She was this amazing woman in her 70s from Hong Kong who barely spoke any English. After one session with her, the vomiting ended, stopped. What was that? As I watched her do her energy work, I felt something in my body shift. And this was a pivotal moment in the shift of my story. I thought I went there only for Ian. What I realized needed to shift was within me. This was an inside job. A glimmer of hope and possibility. It appeared like an apparition inviting me to follow the mystery. The path, it led me to an Equus workshop with Martha and Coel, where I first learned about the work of Byron Katie and the power of Equus. And after the first day, I went back to the hotel room. I discovered my story. I'm trapped by my son with autism. I unraveled. The guilt, the shame, the conviction that I was a horrible mother, it gutted me. So what did I do? I cried for hours until I was exhausted. And then I ate until I felt sick. And then I watched mind-numbing television, and I really, at that moment, did not know how I was going to be able to climb out. So I returned the next day, and I asked for support. And I began to feel the pressure in my body begin to release. And space within, where that limiting story had cut off possibilities. And I felt an expansiveness of freedom. My mental structures, they were blowing apart. And the Equus work, it opened the door to a world where I sense energy in new ways. And I explore patterns and integration. And let me share something with you, a little bit about horses, things that I didn't know. Horses are incredibly sensitive animals. And they communicate nonverbally through nonverbal channels. If you observe a herd in the wild, you'll notice that they stay together and they don't make much sound. And if one horse is scared and spikes their adrenaline, there's a rippling wave of energy that passes through the entire herd very quickly. And they all know who the leader is. And they follow her to safety and return to a state of peace and ease. And she's not the leader because she's trying to take care of the rest of the horses, or because she's bossy and telling them all what to do. She's the leader because she leads her own experience. And she stays present and aware and takes care of herself first, so that she has the energy resources to support the herd. We humans, we also communicate in these rippling waves of energy, and the horses provide feedback. There's no hiding from them. They gently mirror for me my judgments and my patterns when I'm not being loving and kind to myself. And they also let me know when I'm expressing myself with love and compassion and clarity. The Equus work, it fascinated me on a mental and an emotional and spiritual level that I hadn't encountered before. And when I went home and saw Ian, it all fell into place. He's my little horse. And my realization was that it starts with me taking care of myself. And then I can show up and support him. And it's never about trying to fix him or change him. So, how do I now see autism in Ian? Well, the stories about autism can be very scary. Ian is not. Ian is pure love and pure presence. And when I walk in awareness, without going into my mind to try to fix it, I open to all that is here. And now I'm going into wordlessness because I just forgot where I am. I open to all that is here. Yes, and stay in that continuous state of infinite possibility, which is where he always is. He invites me into the world beyond story, to listen beyond words, and to feel all that is here. He teaches me that to walk in love means embracing life in its entirety. The parts that feel really delicious and yummy, and the parts that are confusing, painful, and scary. I continue to learn that we express ourselves in patterns, and that every expression of communication is heard and felt and experienced as energy. And when I show up and listen with wonder and curiosity, wow, I notice that everything is here. Nothing is missing. Everything belongs. One of the ways that I find my way here, home, is by asking the questions, what am I feeling? What parts of myself am I judging? And how can I bring in more compassion and self-love, self-care? When I open up my heart, I begin to feel the vastness of all that is. And see, at the core is love, even in the darkness. It's all here. Even the part of me I now lovingly refer to as Miss Bossy Pants. The one that shows up when I'm trying to control my external environment. Allow me to introduce you to her. One night, Ian was having a really rough time settling to go to sleep. And he was pacing back and forth, going to the front door, the back door, trying to get out. And I was focusing all my attention and energy on trying to fix it, trying to make him feel better. And of course, he was letting me know this wasn't going to work. And this was his gentle invitation for me to return home and ask the question, what am I feeling? And what I found was a resistance to deep sadness. So I sat down on the couch and I cried. And he came and he sat down right next to me. And I opened my hand and he held it as the waves moved past, moved through. And once they passed through, he stood up, walked into the other room, lay down on the couch, and promptly fell asleep. Ian mirrors my energy just as the horses do. And when I come here, when I stay here, I get to see who he truly is, who I truly am, who we all are. Love. He's always here. It's just I that disappears and gets confused and gets stuck. And sometimes when I'm stuck, I wake up out of my confusion and notice that, oh, I have a slide for this one. I wake up and I notice that he's turned on all the faucets in the house. And I hear this as his nonverbal way of saying, Mom, let it flow. It's his invitation for me to notice my stories, my subplots, and open my heart and just feel whatever's here. Landing in that ditch that day, that initiated my journey home. And today, when I find myself in the ditch, my process now is to slow down and ask the questions. Open my heart to compassion. Notice how Ian and I support each other in this relationship called life. And you, generous souls, you show me by welcoming my story. Thank you.